baseline from the whole or partially experiment. We offer a variety of adventure opportunities, including sport fishing, sunset hunting, whale and dolphin watching, and smarter taxi service. To book, contact Captain Warren at telephone number 1758 713 4196. Seabreeze Adventures, not just a tour, but an adventure. Good morning, St. Lucia, and welcome to a special edition of Hard Talk. As you know, we are unable to bring you Hard Talk this afternoon, but of course, I am bringing you a special interview with myself and Mr. Titus Preville as we discuss some of the issues that are paramount and are trending in our society. And one of those topics up for discussion is of course, we have to touch on the current situation embroiling between Mr. Sorry for not calling him honorable, but Mr. Richard Frederick and his current troubles with the law. We also are going to talk about the 5-year anniversary, and a lot of you missed it, but the Labour Party has entered their first 5 years in office, and we are going to talk about what the people of St. Lucia have seen throughout those 5 years. So joining me live in studio is Mr. Titus Preville, and we are going to discuss this issue. I think I may have made a tiny mistake here in guys, give me 1 minute, let me just sort something out. I think I may have made a tiny mistake in the there you go. All right. Yeah, I may have made a tiny mistake, but I'm fixing it. You know, your girl is very handy. Just wondering why this thing was not doing what it's supposed to do, but there we are, up and running. Okay. So, as I said earlier, today is Wednesday, July 29th, 2026. And this week, or well, technically it was last week, the Labour Party, the St. Lucia Labour Party, celebrated their official 5th year in office as the current administrators of the government of St. Lucia. And I need to make this distinction because for some reason, we in this country, we have forgotten that the SLP is not the government of St. Lucia. They are the administration in power at the moment. So I like to make the distinction. They are the administrators of the current government of St. Lucia. St. Lucia is a country. The SLP is a party. We need to remember that distinction. It is very important. I want to begin better things. And in the past 5 years, a number of developments have played out in the public sphere and in the political sphere and internationally. And these developments, they've not all been what we the people expected. So today I have with me a very experienced gentleman, a career public servant, a former permanent secretary, and you know it is the permanent secretaries who actually do the heavy lifting and not the ministers themselves. So this gentleman knows his stuff. He is a former broadcaster, journalist, reporter, whatever you want to call him. So he knows how to disseminate information in the right way. And now he has chosen to serve his country. I think he did a stint as a diplomat. Am I right? CARICOM. Let me tell you, this gentleman has done it all. He's been everywhere. He's regional. Hopefully, if I had my way, he would be international right now. But so he has worked both locally and on the regional front, and he knows his business when it comes to the proper running of government. I would like to introduce to you our very own Senator Titus Prevo. Good morning, Senator. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Edris, and good morning to all your listeners. I think you're speaking into the. I think you're speaking into the future, Senator. I have in fact served. Yes, I have in fact served twice in the Senate. And a friend of mine said, "I saw you taking the oath." And I said, "You're right. I was taking the oath, but you have to take the oath anytime you appear in the Senate."
Ah, okay.
I was actually sitting in for the first occasion. It was Senator, our deputy chairperson,
Dr. Dominic Fady.
No, no,
Dr. Therapolius.
Dr. Polius.
Right.
And the other occasion, I was sitting in for Tommy Descott.
Okay.
The
Government business. Well, opposition business. Could you just put your mic on you? It's yeah. This mic, it requires a lot of love. It likes to be close. Yeah, you could take it and put it on you because it's yeah, it would be easier for us to hear you because I'm right here and I can barely hear you. So
okay. So
yeah,
good.
yes.
So thank you, Edris, for having me on your program this morning, and I like to treat this program not so much as a political program. I think I want to treat this program more as one where we, as a country, as people, engage in some public discussion. Give me 1 second, Edris.
Okay, no, just put it on you. Yeah, it's yeah. It likes to be very close.
Hello, 1 2. Is it better now?
Yeah, I can.
You can hear me better now?
I can hear you better. I still would prefer if you would, hold it on you because it's. I don't know what's wrong with it. It's giving a bit of a. I'm not even getting the levels.
There you go.
Please forgive me. I turned on the wrong microphone.
I will have to. As a
Please don't send me. Please don't send me on administrative leave. Please don't send me on administrative leave. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Please don't send me on administrative leave. But kudos to my mic. It's very powerful. It was picking you up.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, just to say so that, as you know, in radio, people need to hear you properly.
Yes. Yes.
I wanted to just start back by saying thank you very much for the invitation.
Yeah.
And also to indicate that, having served in the Senate on 2 occasions, and each time you take your oath. So someone saw me taking my oath and they called me and said, "Congratulations, you're now a senator." And I said, "Oh yeah, thank you very much." I was one for a moment. Because really and truly, our standing orders makes provisions. The orders make provisions for a person to serve as a temporary senator where a full senator appointed is unable to be present at a sitting of the Senate. And so I've had the opportunity to serve 2 occasions. So it's a pleasure to do that. Yeah. And I was saying, Eldris, this morning I wanted us to look at the discussion not so much from a narrow political UWP perspective necessarily, but to look at it and have a conversation of our country.
Yes.
Because the purpose of political parties, as I gather, is so that they're there to serve people in government.
Yes.
They're there, and the service to government in government could be by serving as the administration in government or serving as the opposition to the administration in government.
Correct.
And therefore, political parties have a very critical role to play in the development of the democracy, the governance of your country, and it is this governance that makes it possible for there to be fairness, that everyone gets an opportunity, regardless of their political affiliation, to participate in the development of the country. And that really comes down to people have been able to earn a living, get equal opportunity to what is provided by the government.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the foundations of a good democracy.
Correct, correct. I told you guys, this gentleman knows his stuff. So, the first thing I want us to talk about, and if things had gone according to standard, because we know that each political party gets 5 years in which to serve the people and to ensure that they bring about their mandate. We would be on the cusp of a general election at this very moment. Of course, the Labour Party is just they're into a second term, and they are only now celebrating 5 years of governance. From your experienced, in your experienced eye, as a former permanent secretary, as a gentleman who has intimate knowledge of how governments work, what what would you rate? How would you rate the Labour Party's performance? Um, and we're going to judge them on some criteria. So, firstly, I want to speak about. I don't want to be unfair to the Labour Party. Of course, this is. I mean, we can, whether or not we agree politically, we can have an objective conversation, like you just said, as it comes to the country. Most of the persons on the island, they are concerned with a few key aspects. Crime is one of them. Healthcare is another one. So we have crime, we have healthcare. Tourism is very important to our economy and the economic development or the economic performance of the country is paramount to many St. Lucians. And I also think it would be necessary. And if you find I miss a criteria that's important, I mean, you the more experienced one here, you can guide me. But I believe crime, healthcare, the economy, and governance is very important. So, what say you? Is Are those criteria sufficient? Do we need to add anything more?
I mean, we can always add others, but I think what you've identified there would pretty much cover a significant part. And there's always the issue of performance of government.
Right.
And under governance, you would look at issues such as adherence to the rule of law.
Right.
And since it is a government, so there's the whole issue of the administration of government. How is it done? Matters pertaining to the legal structure, because a government operates in a legal environment.
Mm-hmm.
Issues such as discrimination, equal opportunity, fairness, those are issues that you could also look at the government over the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Elris, I don't think any government necessarily comes into office and says, "Let me see how I could mess up people." That's not why governments come in. They come in with, I would hope, the intention to help people.
Right.
So a basic thing, if you say to me, "You put in people first," that's your slogan.
Mm-hmm.
I hear it. It sounds nice because it makes a lot of good noise.
Yes.
But which government does not come into office
To put
in
people
our form of
first.
democracy to put people first? Who else or what else would you put first? As a government, you have come into office to represent people's interests.
Mm-hmm.
You've come into office to provide an environment for opportunity, and this is what they call policy making.
Mm-hmm.
So, for whom or for what would you be doing that if it is not for people? So, I hear putting people first, and there's a lot of noise about it, but I say, I cannot think of any administration in government. in from the time we've been around in from the 1950s,
Mm-hmm.
from the George Charles to now, I cannot think of anyone that has not come into government to put people first. Whether the government was embarking on infrastructure projects, whether it was building a podcast trees, as Sir John did, to create a Point Seraphine, whether it was, as Sir John did, and the UWP administration, in creating the Castries Grosley Highway, opening up a new frontier for development,
Mm-hmm.
redesigning the Rodney Bay area to remove the swamp and to create what we now today call Rodney Bay. Whether it was building the Huronero International Airport, and these you would point and say, oh, these are infrastructure projects. The question comes down. At the end of the day, having put those infrastructure projects down, it is for what purpose? It is for the people of the country to take advantage of those facilities to earn their living. You are already putting people first. So I hear the noise around putting people first because this is just about populism.
Mm-hmm.
And if people don't think beyond the words, they will jump up and they will take off their shirt and they will say, what a great government. But this is just noise.
Yeah.
All governments are putting, at least in St. Lucia, I am not aware of a government
That
that
has
has
not put
not
the people
operated
first.
to put people first. Whether it is building secondary schools or converting what were junior secondary schools into senior secondary schools,
Mm-hmm.
whether it is building Castries Comprehensive and getting the help from the Canadians, it was putting the people of St. Lucia first. So that I got a chance to go to secondary school at Castries Comprehensive. So this putting people first thing is, I want to put it in proper perspective.
Yes.
There's nothing new here. There's
Right.
nothing creative here. There is just a lot of flashing mirrors and noise. So let's put that
Aside.
where it belongs aside.
Yeah.
Now, the thing for me is when a government comes into office, and we are looking at this administration, and we're saying you've been there for 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
so there are trends you want to find. You look for trends in government. So you might see isolated things, but then
Mm-hmm.
you look at what is the long-term trend or the underlying theme that you can detect with a government. And when I look at the government and I look at the very first thing of a government is how it governs, its
Right.
governance. And in our country, the issue of the rule of law and the issue of democracy and the
Mm-hmm.
issue of transparency and accountability, these form the foundation of good governance. So, and in fact, to be honest, in 1997, when the Labour Party came into office after after 15 years in opposition, um, there was a lot of emphasis placed on um, transparency and accountability, and that was the Kenny Anthony-led administration, of which the Honorable Philip J. Pierre was a deputy political leader.
Yes.
And he has remained, and he remained in that position until 2016 thereabout.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, whatever the value system, I believe that Dr. Kenny Anthony would have, and the Labour Party would have had then, because it's the same Labour Party,
Right.
that I believe would be what Philip would have been carrying through. Because after all, he indicated that he was one of the most prepared persons for
Ah,
prime ministership.
hold on. He never used the word prepared.
The most
Ready.
ready. I say prepared, ready. He said so. And I think the basis for that would have been the fact that he had been, quote unquote, a student of
Mm-hmm.
the governance process and also a student of Kenny Anthony. Now, if we look at those realities.
Well, he never did. He say he was more ready. There were a number of criteria he gave for his readiness.
And one of them would have to be his experience in government.
That
That's
was the
most-
main one.
that's the
He
most
said his
telling
ministerial
reality for-
experience.
Correct.
Yeah.
And nobody could fight him on that.
On that,
So
yeah.
I would have thought that because of that, one of the things closest to the current Prime Minister and his administration would have been the process of accountability and transparency in the discharge of their work. So
Because this has been an ongoing theme, has it not?
it was the
From
it was
1997
the foundational theme of
of
the Labour
Labour Party,
Party.
yeah,
And
accountability,
therefore, we
transparency.
expect to see that mature now. Not if the Labour Party as a party, and if the Labour Party as an administration of government has a continuity to it, what we should be seeing now is the maturing of public accountability, the maturing of transparency, not the diminution of transparency or accountability. Nothing should be diminishing here. We should be seeing that growing. So I look at situations for that, and I can point to a few. When this administration under this Labour administration under Philippe Japierre came in 2021, one of the first things it did with respect to the Citizen by Investment Program, the CIP, and in particular the economic fund of the CIP, one of the first things they did was to remove, in effect, the role of the board, the advisory board that was supposed to have advised the government on the use of the funds from the CIP
Wow.
for the purpose of how you allocate those funds and what should be approved with those funds. They removed this from the board as making the recommendations to the cabinet. And for the moment the government did that, it sent a message to me, which was frightening, because the CIP was one of the areas where we stood to get what we call windfall sources of revenue. Because this was not revenue from your normal taxation, but this was extraordinary revenue, which ought to have been used for the transformation of our country.
Right.
And once the government did that, it said to me the government was taking away the process of transparency away from what we know is best practice in government to a fairly backward place where a few persons decide on their own without the benefit of independent thought what to do. The cabinet, that was it. I was very, very worried. So we saw that. And then as time moved on, we have seen, for instance, the agreement that has been entered into with Global Ports Holding for the development of redevelopment of port castaways for in terms of cruise. And it was very interesting because the agreement, as we understand, exists. No one has seen the agreement in the general public, that is. We don't know what the nature of the agreement is or the details. We are aware of some aspects of the agreement. And the agreement, unlike what obtains, say, with the Bahamas or Antigua, where GPH has similar agreements, which are in the public domain. So we know it is not GPH that has a difficulty with making such agreements public. We just saw St. Vincent and the Grenadines going into an arrangement with GPH, and they have signed an MOU. And that MOU is now public. In fact, in the MOU, it makes provisions for the ordinary citizens of St. Vincent and the Grenadines to have shares in the special purpose vehicle established. So,
can I just ask a question?
This level of transparency in St. Lucia.
Can I ask a question right there? Because a lot of us, myself included, are very interested in this special purpose vehicle. And it seems that would that have been, I feel like a special purpose vehicle into any sort of investment that comes in, foreign investment, in my mind, I may be wrong, like I said, but in my mind, to me, it is a very good thing for the people. And I cannot understand why St. Lucia was not awarded something like that.
It's not something you award, you know. It is something you design, you as a government. The government of St. Lucia has within it the right to entertain and engage with any third party.
Right.
And it has the responsibility to negotiate in the interest of the people.
Right.
So you see, when people use words, putting people first, it's which people at the end of the day. When you see things like that, you have to ask, who are the people you put in first? Because there is
Right.
an opportunity. I give you what we call a special purpose vehicle is a special type of structure,
Mm-hmm.
arrangement, where the government and the investor set up like a separate company,
Mm-hmm.
and that entity is what would have undertaken the development, which is, in the case of Bahamas, it was done. And what the Bahamians did was they said to Global Ports, let us establish this entity, just as in the case of St. Vincent.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you will have a certain number of shares in that entity.
Mm-hmm.
We, the government, will have some shares. And under there, we're also going to give our private sector, our people.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have, say, the credit unions.
Right.
So, say, the teachers' credit union,
So
the
maybe
workers'
something
credit
something
union.
like
They could have
NIC. Could they have?
NIC. You
Okay.
could have shares. So, as the the company undertakes its work, and
Mm-hmm.
in time, because this agreement, I gather, will be in effect, the agreement between St. Lucia, government of St. Lucia, um, and GPH, will be in effect for between 30 and 40 years.
Right.
And you said, as this company recoups its investment
Mm-hmm.
and it begins to make profit, this profit would have been shared with the persons who are shareholders of that entity. So the teachers of St. Lucia, the workers of St. Lucia, they would have had the national insurance of St. Lucia, would
Mm-hmm.
have had the opportunity to benefit from the net income from that company.
I
And
am,
I ask the question,
but
but why would a government sit and negotiate with a GPH, which already has a record of working with governments in that manner?
mhm.
Why would you not negotiate something similar or better for St. Lucia?
That that is a question that I've had the minute I heard that. I want to ask you a question because you're describing something and it's reminding me of Lucilec. There are similar arrangements with Lucilec, where CCC, for example, and NIC, they both have shares in the electricity company. And I'm thinking, with this current situation with NIC, where people are saying, well, the experts are saying that NIC is running out of money, wouldn't that have been the ideal opportunity to put people first, literally? Because here you have an opportunity for for NIC to gain revenue from the profits of GPH.
And that is,
Am I on the right track with
you're on the
that?
right track. And the Prime Minister himself aware that, you see, your NIC depends on the income it gets by way of the contribution that workers and employers make in the country. And if your population is not growing,
Mm-hmm.
so you run the risk of not having sufficient young persons get into the working pool
Mm-hmm.
to make their contribution, so that the generation that is growing old will be guaranteed their pensions.
Mm-hmm.
So as St. Lucians today reflect that we will not always remain young,
Mm-hmm.
the young will get old. So the young people of today should be said, when I get old, because you are by law compulsorily you have to make a contribution to the NIC,
That's right.
because the whole idea is that we know you will get old if God blesses you, and when you do, you need to be able to have something to take care of yourself. So if your population is not growing, and the Prime Minister has acknowledged that, you need to take whatever resources you have now and invest it prudently so it can generate the most income and benefit for you, for your population. So the NIC would have been a fundamental entity, in my view, in any GPH agreement, but it is
Yeah.
not. So when
Well, we don't know. Well, yeah,
well,
it's not,
I have
but
to
we
say we
still
don't
don't
know.
know.
We don't know because the government of St. Lucia, and that is where we talk about transparency. So the government of St. Lucia has chosen not to let the people of St. Lucia know that what is the nature, the full
Mm-hmm.
nature of the agreement they have with Global Ports, as if the government of St. Lucia is the property of the administration or the property of
Yes.
a political party. And that I give the government 0 out of 10 for. This is a fundamental failure. It's a fundamental failure in not telling the people what is happening. And if it is true that the government, in fact, the agreement has no room for what we can see, then it is also a fundamental failure in the government negotiating ability with GPH. I am thoroughly disappointed with whoever it was that was involved in that, and with the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, for not seeing that this thing is not working in the interest of the people, the people we are putting first. So I am disappointed totally. And I don't know, I cannot find, I have been speaking to St. Lucians, and for those who really take time to understand things, they cannot understand it. It is beyond their comprehension. And the government today, by its actions, it's saying, I don't owe you, the people, an explanation. That is not your business. Know your place, know your role. This is not for you to know. And I take umbrage from that approach.
I take
And people must understand that
I find it
whether
a
you
grave
are whether
offense.
you are an
Grave
SLP
offense.
supporter or a Labour Party or UWP supporter, any group of people you put in charge to do things for you, who tell you by the action, because not everything people say you will hear. You have to be able to deduce things. When by the actions they're saying to you, you really don't have a role in understanding those things. That's disrespectful. So you have the GPH, no accountability here, no transparency. Then you look at um, the CIP,
Yeah.
the Citizen by Investment
Yes.
Program. Like I said, from the outset, that was what the government did in terms of the economic fund and its management was questionable. But to this day, and here's what has happened. When the United Workers' Party administration between 2016 and 2021 was in office, in the social and economic review, you would see reported there the number of persons who received government of St. Lucia passports, the names of those persons,
Right.
and all of that, those details. In our current circumstance, the government no longer reports on who gets a passport.
Now,
And you ask, why?
going further, Titus, the IMF, I don't know if you're aware of that, but the IMF has stated that they wanted the information. There was a report done a couple of years ago in which the IMF stated they requested names and information of CIP citizenship holders. And then they stated at the end of the report that this information was not forthcoming. When the Minister of Investment was questioned on that front, he said point blank, he is not going to release private or personal information of citizens to anyone.
I don't understand what is private or personal. This is not private or personal. A person has become a citizen of St. Lucia. John is now a citizen of St. Lucia. John is a citizen of St. Lucia. What is private or personal about that?
I don't know, but he said he's not going to release.
Yeah.
Now, I
Yeah.
noticed, Titus, and you can clear up any misconceptions that I am operating under. I noticed there was a barrage of borrowing recently. I didn't notice that the IMF was one of the entities that we were borrowing from.
We don't generally borrow from the IMF.
Ah, okay.
We have what we call special drawing rights under the IMF, which is
Right.
basically monies you have access to, but you don't generally borrow from the IMF. If you
Okay,
go
because
borrowing-
I
if you
saw
go
I saw the
borrowing from
special
IMF,
I saw
you
the
are in a
special
lot of
drawing
trouble.
I saw the special drawing rights part, and I was going to ask you about that because I'm not
No, the IMF
I'm not too
really
familiar
is-
with it. And there's a lot of jargon, Titus. Forgive me if I use you as a lexicon as your hair. But there's a lot of jargon that a lot of St. Lucians don't understand. So I might be asking you definitions. Please, I'm just putting you on notice. because we need to understand what's going on with our country. And a lot of us, this is the first time that we are really taking notice of the governance of our country, because it has fallen upon us to become the opposition, and we need to understand what we're dealing with, because we cannot oppose for opposing sake.
Right.
Yeah.
So as I said, the IMF is not in our equation, and I hope to God it never does, because
Okay.
it is not a nice place to be.
Okay. All right.
But what we were looking at, the governance, the absence of transparency and accountability, which are the foundational principles for good governance, which is what the Labour Party as a political party and in government under Kenny Anthony advocated all the time. So there's a marked departure from that. And you see that played out over and over. The CIP, we today have no idea what is the total revenue that St. Lucia has earned from the CIP. You know, it is really insulting to people when a government comes to you and says to you, uh, you are the eye in the CIP. And the
Yes.
government says, here is what we have done with monies from the CIP. We have built X or Y or Z. And I say, bravo, no problem with this. But tell me, how much money have you spent doing that? But more than that, how much money could we have had by now to spend? In other words, if you have earned $100 from the CIP, and you say to me, you come to account to me, and you say, I have spent $10 building buildings and things. I say, thank you very much. But you're not telling me it is $10 out of 100. In other
Right.
words, if I don't know what it is you have earned, how can I measure what you have spent as being significant or
Right.
not significant?
Right.
Because if you have earned $100, but you spend 10, I say, but hold on. Thank you for spending 10, but you've only spent 1/10 of what you could have
Where
spent.
is the other
Where is the other
$90?
90?
All right.
So this is really where when you think about the things you hear
Yeah.
coming from the people who are in government, you have to rightfully feel insulted in the manner in which me as a St. Lucian, you as a St. Lucian, any St. Lucian who is serious, you have to feel insulted because the government is not telling you exactly what is happening.
I think one of the
So,
biggest insults, and it's going away from our topic, just straying a little bit, but more on par with the insults to the St. Lucian psyche. When the Prime Minister made the statement that he did not reduce the price of gas because the monies could, he didn't say would have, or he had evidence, or he had data. He said he felt that the monies would have been used for things that were not productive.
I don't want to comment. I will comment on that later because, again, you see, we have to go back to what is the grounding of this labor administration. And it seems to be grounded in a philosophy that the state is paramount, that it is the government who must decide for you everything. And you are incapable. You are not able. You don't even know how to spend your own money.
Money.
And it is this group of people who will look you in the eye and say to you, since you are so much of a Malawi, since you are so incapable, since you're so incompetent, you don't need to know anything about what we do because you don't need to know how much money we get. And if we give you money, we know you don't know how to spend it anyway. So
Yes.
we will decide how you should spend your money. That is the philosophy you see coming out. And that philosophy of the Labour Party is played out in its, as I say, its approach of not accounting. Because if you don't know what you are about, why should I even come to you and account to
Right.
you?
You're not going to understand
You cannot
anyway.
understand it.
Right.
So this is really at the heart of the Labour Party and how it is approaching government. That is what the people of St. Lucia must open their eyes and see. They will never say it, but the Lord bless us with a brain. So we have to use it and decipher what is going on. So I was speaking about the pattern of non-accountability.
Right.
So we have it with the GPH. We have it with the CIP. And you'd think maybe it's a mistake.
Yeah.
that they made an error here. You have the most egregious one today. I have to spend some time on that because this one hurts me a lot. It is
Yeah.
the SSDF,
Oh my
the
goodness.
St. Lucia Social Development Fund. And, you know,
Have you heard the stories, Mr. Preville?
well, I am not
That
even,
people are actually being turned away.
Miss, uh, Miss, I will tell you this. In all my years in government and in the time I spent as a permanent secretary, I cannot imagine me being a permanent secretary in a
Mhm.
ministry
Mhm.
where there you have a statutory corporation that you have oversight of,
Mhm.
and that statutory corporation would find itself in where we can see the SSDF has found itself, and there is no discussion, no explanation, no acknowledgement
Mhm.
of what is going on.
Yeah.
It is mind boggling. There is a social development fund, SSDF, set up by law to see about poverty and the most vulnerable. And you have resources of St. Lucians and resources of other countries and other
Mhm.
institutions such as the CDB and the World Bank put into this institution for the benefit of the poor and vulnerable. And when you now hear today that politicians were had direct access to the resources to dish out to the people who this politician or that politician in themselves is determining to be poor or vulnerable. You know what you have set up your people for?
Yeah.
You have taken your people back to the age where you had Massa or you had the Lord and the serf. Because these people have assumed a position that they are personally dishing out a favor to you.
Yep.
And this is so insidious because the SSDF has a board that sets the rules. It
Mhm.
has an executive director. It has a minister. And there is no place in my understanding where a politician, a parliamentary rep, could directly be involved in the distribution of the resources of the SSDF
Right.
because the SSDF has staff for that.
Mhm.
I understand a politician, meaning a parliamentary rep, can make a recommendation to
Right.
the SSDF because you represent your constituency.
That's right.
There are people who you know are in a bad position.
Mhm.
These people ought to be known by the SSDF
Right.
staff, but they will not know everything.
Of
So
course.
a parliamentarian, member of parliament, could recommend to the
Mhm.
SSDF that this person's case be examined, and once the person meets the criteria, then
Then the SSDF will act.
The
Yeah.
SSDF ought to be interfacing with that person. There is no place for a politician in that scheme.
Mhm.
And when you understand that politicians were handing out government vouchers and checks, this is an indictment on the SSDF, an indictment on the board. And when you now have in circulation checks like that, and the SSDF has not issued a statement saying these are incorrect, these are
Mhm.
false.
Yeah.
When the board, the board of directors of the SSDF continue to function as if nothing has happened. You know, if I was on that board, miss, I would not be told to resign. I would have left that organization instantly. I ought to be ashamed
Yeah.
when the prime minister was the minister for SSDF has not found it fitting after weeks of this to say a word to St. Lucia, not one word at his press briefing. What does that tell you? When the executive director is in office still, you know what it tells you? It goes back to the same point at the start. It goes back to the point about the government saying they can spend your money for you. The point here is that the government is saying to you, I owe you no explanation.
Right.
You, the people of St. Lucia, you are not worthy of my time.
Wow.
Guess what? You all are so unable to understand those things. I need not tell you a word. The government's action is saying that to you. And we can block our ears as much as we want. That is what is being said.
Yeah.
So the government is saying, not only am I not interested in accounting to you for your money, I am not even interested in accounting to the people from outside of St. Lucia about their money. That is the stance of the government after 5 years. And I say this, miss, because don't forget, from 1997, the foundation of the Labour Party was accountability and transparency.
Right?
Don't forget, Philip J. Pierre has been part of that process from then. So I say in 2026, we should have been seeing a maturing of that philosophy. We should have been seeing that philosophy as an automatic practice. In other words, because of the foundation of transparency and accountability, the board members should have left yesterday,
Yeah.
even before. But now, what we see is a recanting, a going back. So when the Labour Party will go to the market steps tomorrow to celebrate 5 years of governance, they are celebrating 5 years of moving backward, not forward. They are celebrating 5 years of putting the people last, not first. That is really what they're doing. And I say sometimes this Labour Party itself don't even understand. They are so confused. They don't even understand in their policies how they are hurting and not helping the ordinary St. Lucian. And it's because, when you have flashing mirrors, you don't really see the whole truth.
That's true.
So it's because of flashing mirrors, a prime minister will say to you that I know how best to spend your money for you. You don't know. And the people are going to applaud it. you know, I see accountability and transparency and governance of this particular Labour Party administration as atrocious. And they know it is atrocious. They know it is atrocious. Because nothing I have said there is untrue. And anybody who takes time to think through it, they will see it is atrocious. So the SSDF continues today as if nothing has happened. And people are moving along merrily. Let's move right along. That cannot continue. That must stop. I will speak out against it. I will speak out against it with all the strength I have in my heart. I'll continue to do it. And, we cannot speak about that and not speak about the current situation facing our country for a particular minister in the cabinet. And that one is particularly sad. I think it is sad. Sad in the sense that you have a prime minister who in 2018, a situation where one minister of United Workers' Party in administration at the time was involved in a situation that was not criminal.
Yeah.
In fact,
he was the victim of a crime.
He was the victim of a crime.
Yeah.
But because of a portrayal in the public space, the prime minister, the leader of the opposition then said, we have to think of any action by such a high level official of the government of St. Lucia that can put our country in disrepute.
I think the word he used was injurious to the public good.
Same thing, injurious to the public good, put our country in disrepute, damage the image of St. Lucia.
That's
anything like that. He was asking and calling for Alan Chasney then to get this person out of the cabinet, resign voluntarily, or Alan remove this man. The gentleman resigned. And today, the same Philip J. Pierre, faced not with a situation where there isn't a criminal action involved, but that criminal action it supersedes the more fundamental issue that he had a problem with.
Yes.
And he continues to keep this person in his cabinet, and he's moving along as if nothing has happened. This to me is not only an indictment on St. Lucia, it is an indictment on Philip Pierre, because now everybody could see. Philip here does not mean what he said, or he does not know what he says. And he's turning out to be one of the poorest examples of a prime minister in CARICOM. Because a fundamental principle, you either believe in something or you don't.
Yeah.
And he's demonstrating he does not. But in our situation, it is more serious. Because when the police commissioner, and in a free democracy like ours, if a minister of government is being investigated for criminal activity, I cannot understand what legal premise is being breached by not saying what is that crime.
Because we can assume it's criminal activity.
The reason why I say criminal activity is because
the commissioner
of police
yeah,
said it is an index crime.
Right, I was coming to that. But even before the commissioner made that statement, information had surfaced that the minister's home had been surrounded by police, searched. He had been escorted down to the police station. He was actually held in police custody for over 10 hours, using the words of the police, assisting with a police investigation. Then you had the police commissioner making a statement that no one is above the law, that whether you're rich, whether you're poor, once the police gets information of a crime being committed, that they will investigate and they will do what they have to do.
Which is what the police must do.
Which is what they must do.
And if unless I missed it, I seem to recall the commissioner referring to the crime as an index
crime. Yes.
And for anyone who wishes to find out what an index crime is, it is an index crime. You could have violent index crimes, and they involve murder and non-negligent manslaughter, rape. It involves robbery, aggravated assault. All of these are what they call violent index crimes. Now, you see, where we are at is that the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Philip J. Pierre, is saying he is aware that in his cabinet, as we speak, is one of his ministers who is under investigation for one of those index crimes.
Yes.
Possibly murder, possibly rape, possibly robbery, possibly aggravated assault.
But we can't narrow it down because it is not our fault,
Yes.
Mr. Previll, because they're leaving it to speculation. So now we have to connect the dots.
Yeah.
We know for a fact that the minister's home was searched.
The minister admitted that.
Yes, he admitted that his phone was taken, it was confiscated, and he was held at the vulnerable persons unit. We know the kinds of crime that the vulnerable persons team investigates. Elderly assault, rape, statutory rape, sexual assault. These are the kinds of crimes. So we can narrow it down in a way because this is a specialized team within the Royal St. Lucia Police Force.
I'll ask you a question. If you were told that in the cabinet of St. Lucia today, there is a minister of government under investigation for murder, a simple question. Do you think that person should remain in the cabinet?
No.
While the process of...
Not at all.
Okay.
No.
And you think there are St. Lucians, sound-minded St. Lucians would say, yeah, he's accused of murder, but it's okay, he can
No.
No. You see, this is really what the Prime Minister of St. Lucia is seeking to tell me today by saying to me that I am aware that I, as Prime Minister, and I am the one who reserve the right to keep or not to keep in my cabinet ministers. Ministers serve at the pleasure of the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
And the Prime Minister is saying, I am comfortable in keeping this person in my cabinet. I have confidence in this person, notwithstanding the person is under investigation for a crime that falls in the category we've spoken there. And he is saying that to the people of St. Lucia, the action I will take is to tell that person go on leave.
Now,
No, let
Hold
me go.
on,
Let
eh?
me go. Eldridge, I want to finish this point.
Yeah.
A person going on leave does not remove from the person the office the person holds.
Mm-hmm.
The person continues to be a minister. The person continues to be in your cabinet. The person continues to benefit from all the privileges of the minister in the cabinet. And what was a very interesting thing to me, and I smiled. An entire press release came out of the office of the prime minister
When the gentleman went on leave.
saying to me, the minister went on leave. And I'm saying to myself, but how often does the prime minister's office write to the public when ministers go on
There's another
leave?
thing that we're
But
forgetting.
because
There's something else that we're forgetting, Titus, and I want to bring it up. And it has to do with what you just said about somebody being accused and serving at the pleasure of the prime minister. Do you recall at the beginning of the SLP's term, the president of the Senate, Mr. Stanley Felix, found himself accused of a crime? Before you could have, I think before the cock crowed 3 times, the prime minister himself was on the news saying that Mr. Felix had been relieved of his duties. And he said, he didn't say he didn't condemn him. He said he needs time to prepare his defense. And so he is being relieved of his duties as the president of the Senate. I want to ask the prime minister, where has that
you see,
conviction gone?
you see, when Philip appears on the market steps tomorrow night, he has to somehow become many people at the same time, because you see, the reality is that people can see through you.
Yeah.
The reality is that St. Lucians are not dumb.
Yeah.
In as much as you'd want to think your base will agree with everything you say and your base will follow you, your base also know that they're following a person who is inconsistent, a person who has no principle. You might choose to follow the person, you might choose to not rock the boat, but the fact of what the person is doesn't go away.
Yeah.
It is still that person who is inconsistent and, in this case, unprincipled.
Yeah.
That is who will address the people on the market steps on Thursday. Whether you are a supporter of the Labour Party or not, this is what we'll be watching, you will be looking at. And the Prime Minister has it within his purview to change that. Because, when the Labour Party went to the elections in December 2025, on the 1st of December, they won 14 seats.
Mm-hmm.
So for the purpose of correction and accuracy, there is no 16-1.
Yeah.
The Labour Party never won 16-1 in
16-1.
St. Lucia.
Yeah.
The only person who has, and Philip must understand that, don't confuse adding. You must be able to add. The only Labour Party prime
So you're
minister
saying as a
who
prime
has
minister,
won
your
16
maths has
his
to maths.
right,
Yes.
has been Kenny Anthony.
Yes.
Kenny Anthony won 16-1. The Labour Party, this administration, this Labour Party did not win 16-1. They won 14 seats.
Mm-hmm.
There were 2 independents and who won their seats, and 1 United Workers' Party won their seat. This is the fact.
Yes.
Jump up, jump down. This is
the fact.
fact.
That's right.
So when the Labour Party puts all 17 candidates of the Labour Party in government, in an election, and 16 Labour Party people win their seats,
then
can then say he has won. So I just want him to again, don't confuse yourself.
Yes.
Don't contort yourself. Don't make yourself into something you're not. Just stick to the truth if you can. Stick to the truth.
He's finding it rather difficult to stick to the truth.
It's difficult. It's difficult because when you lie and lie and lie, the lies catch up with you.
Yeah.
So I'm saying we're looking at 5 years of the Labour Party in government, and I'm saying to them, the truth of the matter is that we don't even know what it is that is passing for the government now, because it is so convoluted. Mm-hmm. The leader has no principle. He does not believe in anything. It's all about convenience. It's just a lot of noise. I'll give you an example of something that, again, and I have to say to the Labour Party, not because you're good at propaganda makes it true. So the Labour Party was very convincing of the ordinary solution. The ordinary solution who chose not to think for himself. That what the United Workers' Party administration in government did at St. Jude's in attempting to build a purposed brand new hospital was somehow wrong. It was the wrong thing to do.
Right.
And it was a box that was being built. Okay. So the Labour Party came into office in 2021 and they told the people of St. Lucia that they would have finished St. Jude's in 6 months. And really and truly what was needed was a few coats of paint and everything would be hunky-dory. People will be moving in and St. Jude's would be up and running.
Right. And Emma Hippolyte said to the public that within the first year of their administration, by the end of the first year, St. Jude's would be fully built, fully rehabilitated, and fully commissioned and delivered to the people of St. Lucia. We must remember that.
I will say this to you. I have a lot of respect for Emma. Emma has been, I worked with her as a permanent secretary, and I think Emma's heart is always in the right place in terms of these things. And when she speaks, I think a lot of St. Lucians listen to her because of her track record.
Yeah.
So when she would have spoken like that, and 5 years later, I don't know how she feels, having to listen to herself say those words. And I don't know how the rest of the Labour Party people feel, having heard those words from her and others, that St. Jude's would have been finished in 1 year, 6 months, whatever the figure.
She said within the first year.
And you see today, what is the fact? The fact is the box, as the Labour Party referred to it, and a lot of their supporters call it the box. But guess what? The only clinical activity that is happening at St. Jude's today in terms of the St. Jude is in
the box.
The box is where you have your physiotherapy. The box is the only part of St. Jude's today
that is functional,
where you have dialysis.
Right.
The box is the only part that is functioning. So as the Labour Party goes to the market steps tomorrow night, let me see if they have the courage to speak the truth and tell St. Lucians, well, it is only the box at St. Jude's after 5 years
that
we have been able to put to use for the people of St. Lucia. Please find the courage within you to speak the truth. You can start now. It's not too late to try to speak the truth.
You think they will?
We will wait and see.
Okay.
Because
the verdict is still out.
Yeah, because the report of 5 years of success must be 5 years of your success. And their success has been to use what the United Workers' Party put in place, that they ridiculed, that they condemned. The truth is, that is all they have to show in St. Jude's as the clinical part of St. Jude's that works today. And I mean, you know, I talk to St. Lucians as I go through, and people are asking me, but what happened in November when there was a ceremony in St. Jude's? I said, I don't know. I simply do not know. I say, because to me, if you give a contractor to build a house for you, and the contractor has built the foundation and 5 walls,
yes,
you don't have a ceremony to accept the house, do you?
No.
Because you give him a contract to build a full house and to put everything in it. So why would you have a ceremony for the foundation and 2 walls? This is really...
But where's the roof?
so St. Lucians today,
yeah,
when they look back before the last elections, and they can have a chance now to think, that was all that was going on. Mama Guine, flashing mirrors, nothing of substance. But the worst part, your taxpayers' money was taken to give you a ride down in St. Jude's that something was happening. Propaganda.
Yes.
Nothing. So I say again, accountability, transparency, this is all but dead in St. Lucia right now. All but dead. So in celebrating 5 years in government, the Labour Party must tell St. Lucians and accept that we have lost our way in public in accountability.
Yes,
We
yes.
have lost our way totally in accountability. So we are looking at the Labour Party 5 years.
So on the score of governance,
Yeah, well, I mean, I will let the public. I will let the public judge. All I'm doing is providing the evidence, and
okay,
I'll let the public judge for
okay, all
themselves.
right.
But I know what my number is. All right.
I know what my number is too.
Good. So we perhaps want to take a little look at the economy and say, well, okay, so governance is in the gutter. Let us look at the economy, and you would want to look
Boy,
at certain.
Titus, let me tell you, when I look at governance with all the pointers that you've given, all the grading that you've given, that gutter is not a clean gutter, you know.
Well, I
That
am
might be
sure.
the gutter that passes between the Grand Riviere bus stop and Dilly's supermarket. I don't think that's the gutter. I don't think that's a good gutter to be in
No, it's not a good place to be at all.
at all, at
At
all,
all,
at
at
all, at
all.
all.
So
But we're moving on to the economy.
yes, and you now say to yourself, okay, so 5 years again, and go in the market steps, and you're reporting on
Yeah.
the economy of St. Lucia,
Right.
and I'm thinking to myself, wow, you came in 2021 and you're just on the end of COVID, moving in forward, and everybody can excuse the government for a difficult time then,
Yes.
because that was what was facing the UWP at the time.
Right.
And I heard the Prime Minister, or I read rather, the Prime Minister's statement as he's preparing to celebrate 5 years, and he was basically telling the people of St. Lucia, this has been one of the most, if not the most challenging time to be a Prime Minister in St. Lucia. And I say to the Prime Minister today, Honorable Philippe J. Pierre, if you think you've had a difficulty now,
Wait till you experience COVID.
well, yes, I think that perhaps is what you would want to use. I say, if you were true to yourself, some of the most difficult challenges facing St. Lucia and the world have been during the period of the global financial crisis in
2006,
2007,
yeah.
2008, and COVID. These
Yeah.
would be perhaps the two
Wasn't
greatest
what
challenges
I
that
think
any
there
government
was
could
an
have
I think it's the
faced.
same 2006. There was something going on in
There was
2006.
2006, 2007 was the global food crisis.
Right.
You
I know
had
there was a
right.
crisis then.
So you move from the food crisis into the financial crisis. And both of these crises, as St. Lucians would know, it was the United Workers' Party
Yeah.
administration.
That pulled us through.
Yes. So, if all due respect, I would say to the Prime Minister, you have not yet seen difficult times. So while you complaining that it has been rough, my brother, you still have not seen rough yet. So hold your powder still. Hold your powder still. And I will say to the Prime Minister that the economy of this country and what he got was an economy that had been restructured significantly in terms of its finances and preparatory work done so that when he came into office, by the time he had gone into 2022, we were seeing a rebounding economy. The
Right.
economy experienced what we call a V-shaped recovery. And then,
Now, Titus,
yes,
not many of us are as well versed in the
a
jargon.
V-shaped,
Right. So
V-shaped
so
economy,
give us a little
meaning
more.
you see when you go through a crisis such as what we went through COVID, and let us not forget what COVID was. During COVID, St. Lucia depends on revenue at the port, trade,
Right.
for a lot of the government that is, for a lot of its revenue.
Right.
So when ships are not moving, when goods are not moving, when the world has pretty much come to a stop, the government of St. Lucia,
Like what we
itself,
saw
as we saw
during
during COVID,
COVID, yeah.
the government of St. Lucia, one of its key sources of revenue has come to a halt. So, and people are at home, they're not working, they're not producing.
Right.
Taxes, VAT cannot be collected. So you have a contraction, a reduction in government revenue. And because of that, the growth of the country must drop.
Right.
It must drop. So your economy shrinks because of no fault of yours, and everybody went through that. At the same time, your country must function. So Alan Chastain's administration at the time had only one choice, but to borrow.
Right.
And that was what was being recommended by the World Bank, by the IMF. So he had to. So you see in 2026, the debt to GDP, the ratio, debt at the top, GDP at the bottom, if you divide these two numbers, once.
Oh, we forgot Hurricane Thomas.
Well, I won't even speak about Hurricane
Right.
Thomas in 2010. Hurricane Thomas, again, I'm saying I'm looking at the scale
Right.
of things that really impacted our country.
Right.
And I say the two most significant ones, if you ask me, were COVID
Mm-hmm.
um,
That economic crisis.
and economic, the global financial crisis.
Right.
So the situation we had was debt had gone up for no fault of the government, it had to, and the GDP had contracted. And so the ratio, the debt to GDP ratio went high.
Right.
And this administration came into government, and even in the last election, people were actually referring to the debt to GDP ratio at that time, which was just about 91%, and saying, look at how much borrowing
Yeah.
we had done and how
Madi
debt.
Poitier.
Yes. And I said, wow, this is bad for you to be misleading your people so much. But it is politics.
Yep.
It is politics. And soon after, the debt to GDP ratio, because the economy was being restructured during the COVID period, so that the government began to experience a debt to GDP ratio that was going down. And let's not forget, prior to COVID, the government of St. Lucia, the debt to GDP ratio had gone down below 60%, which is what the central banks ask you to be at or below 60%. And we were there. So we see now, 5 years later, 2021, 2025, 26, the debt to GDP ratio has gone up again to now we estimate with the new borrowing at over, it will be just around 80 something, 85% or so.
Oh.
And we have no COVID.
Right.
We have no COVID. So when the Prime Minister will report on the market steps, he must explain to us what it is that happened in St. Lucia to cause our debt to GDP ratio to go so high.
I think Guy Joseph gave us an explanation one time. You know, he
Well,
said
I
he
know
said hurricane labor.
I, I know what has happened, but because we don't have a COVID environment.
Right.
So what exactly is it that is happening? So the economy itself, debt is rising, GDP is not rising. In fact, when you look at the growth of St. Lucia in 2025 versus 2024, the economy contracted. It got smaller. It got smaller by 0.6%. That's what happened. So you have unprecedented borrowing, and yet the economy is contracting. So what is the Prime Minister reporting after 5 years? And that is what the St. Lucian people need to look at. That is what we need to pay attention to. I say, you look at tourism, our main um, 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 income earner, and performance in every aspect of tourism is down.
Is down.
And we were discussing accountability and transparency, and I forgot one of them. The most recent one was the Arsenal deal.
Right. We
And
forgot the Arsenal deal.
and then again, no accountability, no transparency. Basically, that is not your business.
Yeah.
Who you think you are. These things are beyond you. You cannot understand that.
Right.
Just go along your business, man.
Yeah.
And we will give
Just
you.
know that I am taking care of
Yeah,
you.
man, yeah, man. The government. This is the new government governance style. We
Right.
don't need to account to you. Just go home and sleep, and whatever we do, you do it. It is always going to be good for you. That's what the trend is under this Labour administration.
Wow.
So if we were to agree with that approach, well, I see our economy contracting. Should I fall asleep and say, well, they're doing a good job. The economy is contracting. I shouldn't speak out. The Prime Minister will have to explain that on the market steps tomorrow night.
The contractions.
Why it is he's borrowed so much. He has had so much revenue because he's reporting, collecting so much taxes,
Yes.
so much revenue, yet the economy is contracted. He needs to explain that because it doesn't work out in any economic sense I know of. You understand me?
Well, it sounds like the economy has sprung a leak, Titus. If we're collecting, if our, because, okay, it seems to me that our economy is a basket and the revenue is a water. The revenue is water. Think about it. Think about it.
It's leaking.
It's leaking because we're collecting taxes. We're collecting CIP funds. We are getting, because they said jazz was the best ever, carnival is the best ever, everything is the best ever. So that means we made money. GPH is a great deal, although I see no cruise ships. The minister of tourism keeps saying tourism is the best ever, everything is the best ever, but yet still our economy is contracting.
All you have to
We've
do
sprung
is,
a leak.
basically, based on what the Labour Party is saying, anything you see there is good. Nothing there is bad. It's good, man. It's just good.
Yeah,
It's just
everything is good.
Yeah, don't question. So you have the latest was the Arsenal deal. I said where we have no transparency. So after 5 years, no transparency, no accountability. The economy is in free fall. The debt to GDP ratio is out of whack.
I'm starting to not like the words you are using, Titus. They're starting to hurt me in my
Well,
chest.
you see, sometimes and St. Lucians, a number of St. Lucians are still saying, things nice, things nice. I
Our
said,
government is working.
working. Our government is working.
I
And I
keep
say,
trying to figure out on what
I
though.
say, I say, okay, if you think so. There are some times in life you just have to leave people in their world. Because sometimes when you're on a big ship and you're on the 11th floor, and the ship has taken water on all the first 8 floors, but your feet dry, you're having a
Yeah.
good time on the 11th floor. You're thinking, well, everything is fine.
Music is playing.
Music is playing, but the
Food
whole
is
ship is
being
sinking.
served,
But you
yeah.
don't know that because you have dry feet on the
Yeah.
11th floor. It's only when your feet get wet you say, something is wrong. By that time,
You
it's
already dead.
yes. So we have to take our time to understand. And sometimes in life, you should be able to look at the signs and realize something is wrong. Not because your feet dry. You need to look up beyond you and realize something is wrong. So I was looking at the economy, and I was saying to you that we've seen tourism, agriculture is down. Uh, all the key indicators are down. So
Wow.
we our export levels are in the wrong direction. So we have a problem on our hands, and I will hope, without much, I will hope, but not without much confidence, that when the Prime Minister speaks on the market steps on Thursday night, he will give us and he examines his administration. He should be honest with the people and tell them that they have they have had many problems and they perhaps need help in how to solve the problem, because where they are at now cannot be where St. Lucia has to be. I,
Titus.
I want to also, I cannot, stop the review by not looking at crime.
Because
Well,
that's one of our indicators.
yes. You see, um, we have had unprecedented levels of murder. That's then now we're just looking at murders, the most violent form of crime. It doesn't mean that burglaries aren't going on and everything
Yeah.
else, but the
Just
most
murders.
violent homicides. We are, we have had homicides in the 70s, high 70s, consistently since this administration has been in office. These are lives that have been lost.
Yep.
And I thought, when you have a strong, if you're doing well as a country, and people are feeling okay and things, you ought to have less crime, not more crime. Why?
Yeah.
Because people are engaged in other activities
Right.
that are supposed to help there. Because generally, people don't want to find themselves in jail. Generally, that is. People don't want to know that they've been shot at and killed. This is like almost like a last option.
Right.
It's not a routine option. And when you're doing well as an economy, you have your police well equipped, you have your systems in place to deal with crime. But crime is on the rise. Either you're not spending enough time or you don't care. Healthcare is not any better. Healthcare, the complaints continue.
I think healthcare is one of the scariest things for a lot
Yes,
of St. Lucians. So
yes,
maybe we should
yes.
take a little time on healthcare.
Uh,
But then, if we have to speak about healthcare, we'll have to go back to St. Jude's. And now
yes.
We've
Five
we've
years
heard
later,
nothing on the
5 years.
on the fifth finger
I don't know
of
if you cannot deal with
OKEU.
St. Jude's, because you see what the government did, and it's just amazing. You've taken buildings that were 80 years old and
Mm-hmm.
had gone past their time, and you insisted on going back to those buildings to prove a point. What is the point you are proving? We will not continue anything that Alan Chasney started, as if Alan Chasney is the one who will determine the future of St. Lucia long before now. You know, when you do that, you destroy so many people and so many things. The the work that Sir John did in helping St. Lucia, is Sir John benefiting from it today?
No.
He's dead. Um, so whatever you're doing, it's not the person you have to focus on. It's what is in the interest of the people now and in the future. And I say to you, it is, and it has always been in the interest of the people of St. Lucia to have had a brand new state-of-the-art hospital at St. Jude's for
Mm-hmm.
so many reasons. For the people of St. Lucia, for our tourism industry that's growing, to
Mm-hmm.
provide greater security to our airlines when they're landing here, because every time an airline is landing, it's a potential risk. So if you have a major accident, you have a good facility nearby. You know, things like that. That is really what we should put at the forefront of our minds as we make decisions, not whether it was Shasney or UWP doing it. That is a counterproductive way of thinking.
Yeah.
And so healthcare is still not where it is supposed to be. The United Workers Party had proposed universal health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
The Labour Party has an approach that says universal health care.
Now, let's take a moment to put these two things under the microscope. With the universal health insurance, we knew what was happening.
Universal health, or you mean national
The
health insurance?
national health insurance, right? We knew what was happening. An insurance policy would be put in place for the people of St. Lucia. You fall sick, you go to the hospital, you choose you show your insurance card, and then similar to what obtains with the NIC, the claim gets reported by the hospital or to the insurer, and then your stay, you don't have to come out of pocket, right? Of course, you might be required to
Everybody will
pay
have to pay a portion of
a
it,
portion,
but nothing
right?
near what the total cost
Right,
will be.
right. But then with universal healthcare, we're confounded, kerfuffled, and quite confused.
Yeah, because
They're on selected things. Most of the things, when I think about it, is stuff that when you tell me that our birth rate is low and the government is seeking to subsidize birth, because when you say you're giving people $1,000 per live birth, that's a subsidy. You subsidizing a birth. That's how I see it. And then you're putting in things for pregnant mothers that we don't have.
well, I there are these specifics, but for me, I gather that if you fall sick and you go to the OKEU hospital,
Mm-hmm.
you're not covered under the universal health care program. You have to pay your bill.
Yeah, yeah.
I,
Oh,
I-
oh,
and
and guess
and I'm
what?
not sure. I am not okwa enough to with the universal health care to give to speak to the public on that in detail.
Mm-hmm.
I try not to speak on things I don't know or don't understand totally, but I can only speak to an experience I had, and the experience is that if you go to the OKEO hospital um, emergency and you're admitted, the universal healthcare program does not cover you. I think it covers up to the polyclinic or somewhere in that area. But
Titus, I took my daughter to the OKEU emergency for a procedure. She was in an accident, and we had to have a procedure, an X-ray. And we were told that NIC doesn't even cover that unless you're admitted at the hospital. So you have to come out of pocket.
wow. And this is really what many solutions are now grappling with that. Unfortunately, when we proposed the national health insurance, the very administration, simply because they had not been able to conceptualize it and develop it. And as usual, the Labour Party is stuck in proving that they are right and everybody else is wrong.
Yeah.
They tried, they not tried, they actually went on the offensive to show and spread negative and false information about how the proposed national health insurance would work. I thought it was so disingenuous, and if you don't have a better option, don't deny people of what is better for
Yeah,
them. No, don't do
yeah.
that. You cannot put anybody first by doing that. Just agree that you don't have a good plan, and focus on some other area. But let people make decisions in their interest.
Right.
But that's not the Labour Party style. And so healthcare is at an all-time low. Eldris, so 5 years down the road,
Mm-hmm.
5 years later, I
I'm afraid to ask you for your scores here,
I am
Titus.
I we still don't have St. Jude's.
We don't have the fifth finger of the OKEU.
We still don't have the Hirano International Airport.
And not just that, not
And
just
guess
that.
what? And the Hirano International Airport, as I understand it, will cost much more than than we could have done, and we could have done it in partnership with our ally, the Taiwanese, and
Mm-hmm.
we walked away from that. So in 5 years, we have had nothing that was promised in 2021 delivered.
Not just that, Titus. You're missing something on healthcare. We need to revisit that. Do you realize that most of our primary healthcare facilities have been closed?
Well, a number of them were closed. I know at least in Babano, a
Yeah.
number were closed. Some were being on renovation work was being undertaken there, and these were works,
Mm-hmm.
the funding for which were negotiated under the UWP administration before it left office.
Uh-huh.
And what happened significantly was that during COVID, a lot of the work that was in train there actually came had to was derailed. So that what
Wow.
would have happened there, what you saw happening in terms of hospitals being rehabilitated, not
Mm-hmm.
hospitals, health centers,
Mm-hmm.
that was work that was already planned during the UWP administration.
Wow.
But the government has implemented it. Bravo. Um, so I look back now and I say to St. Lucians, you need to look at the big picture and see where your country is now and ask yourself if St. Lucia is like a big ship on the ocean, not because you cannot see your feet getting wet, it doesn't mean that the ship is not taking water. You need to look all around you because you might think you're in a safe spot
But you're
and
not.
then you're not. And the mindset of the Labour Party is perhaps the most frightening thing. The mindset is one that says you can do nothing for yourself. I, we, the elite, the ones who know everything,
Right.
we are the ones who will do and ask no questions in the process. Know your
I have a
place.
problem with the ask no questions
Ask no
part.
que-
I am
ask- ask
I'm
no
naturally
questions.
inquisitive.
Ask no questions. But we will ask questions.
Yeah.
I give you an example of a policy that when you look at it on the face, people will say, bravo, bravo, you're putting people first. But when you think about it,
Mm-hmm.
it is hollowing out people's responsibility. There is this policy in the last budget, and about paying school fees.
Mm-hmm.
Spain, what is it again? 5 CXs
Right.
for every child.
Yeah.
5 CXs. And when people heard that, a number of people said, that's very good, that's very good. And I said to myself, wow, let's take a look at what the government is saying.
Mm-hmm.
You see, when you say something like that, you are making some assumptions. Eh?
Mm-hmm.
Because you see, a government policy is supposed to address a problem.
Right.
And so you ask yourself, what is the problem the government is seeking to address? And I say to myself, the government is not seeking to address a problem for persons who can pay their school fees.
No.
Because if you can pay your CXs for your child
Mm-hmm.
at the end of 16 years,
Right.
you've made all the provisions,
Right.
then telling me you're going to pay it for me is not solving a problem because I don't have that as a problem.
Right.
So let's look at it. So a child is born, and if you know, and if you, we are persons who do everything we have to do, the Lord is good to us. Our child will get to 16
Right.
around the time you write CXCs.
Mm-hmm.
So a CXC is about $200, Eltris, for one.
100 for just a basic subject,
Mm-hmm.
but it gets more expensive. It's
Let's say
if it's a
$200.
practical subject.
Let's say
Yeah,
$200.
let's say
Two hundred
$200.
dollars. So you have a child, and let us say the child was writing eight CXs, not
Mm-hmm.
five, eight.
Mm-hmm.
So you have $200 by eight is $1,600. Am I right?
Yes.
Good. So a parent has a child, and a child is born, and the parent knows in 16 years' time,
Uh-huh.
I will have to get $1,600 for my child to write this eight CXs. Correct?
Correct.
If you are a responsible parent, what would you do?
Start saving. That's what
Right.
that's what I did.
That's what you
I,
do.
I actually started saving for my daughter's education
Yeah.
the
But,
minute
but
she
how
was
much but how
born.
much are you asking that parent to save? On average, you're saying save $100 a year
Mm-hmm.
for your child. Yeah?
Yeah.
A year. $100 a year for your child. So that by the age 16, when the person writes 8 CXs,
Then you're
you have a
prepared.
$1,600.
Right.
You see, when the government says, I will pay 5 CXs in this case, not even eight, five, the government is saying, I look at the people of St. Lucia and they are incapable. They are not able. All of them, everyone, not some, miss,
All of them.
everyone are unable to save $1,600 over 16 years. And therefore, I will come in to do that for them. That's the message. So when you hear that and you think about that, the government is saying that, well, these people are going to remain poor. These people don't even have a clue how to manage themselves
Right.
and their finances.
So I must step
So
in and
I
do it
must
for
step
them.
in to do that. And you ask the question. So you mean some of these people I see sending the children to private schools,
Mm-hmm.
public schools, because my parents were not rich, but they had to plan for all seven of us to write our CXs, not
Mm-hmm.
one, seven.
Yeah.
And they did it. You saying to the people of St. Lucia that while in the past
We could have
your
done it.
parents could do it, you now in the future, you are even
You.
worse than your parents. You will
Yes.
not be able to do it. That's the underlying thinking that goes behind a policy like that. You see, if the government had said, well, everybody should be doing it, but I recognize there will be some people, no matter what, they will still not be able to do it. We will identify those people,
And we're
and
going to help them.
I will be the first one in the line to jump up for that. But when you don't do that and you come up with such a policy, it is really degrading people. And persons don't even understand that that is what this administration is doing to you. They're saying to you, you're not capable of doing the basic things for yourself. Somebody else has to do it for you. I think that in my mind captures the putting people first philosophy. It is about treating people as if they are unable to do for themselves the things they ought to do, their responsibility, and so we shall put you first by taking that responsibility from you. And that is not the way you build a country. That's never the way you build a country. And there's another part to that I think we need to understand.
Mm-hmm.
The government funds those projects through taxes, not so?
Yes.
Um, when you go to the supermarket
Mm-hmm.
and you buy something at the supermarket, you pay your VAT, yes?
Mm-hmm.
The rich, the poor pay the VAT.
Yep.
But guess what? The rich and the poor pay the same
Amount
amount
of
of
VAT.
VAT.
And even the children are paying VAT because you give
Everybody,
your
everybody
children
pays
something
the
to.
VAT.
Yeah, everybody's
So
paying VAT.
if you buy a tin of milk, Eldris,
Mm-hmm.
and the VAT is $1, whether you're earning $100
Or $20.
or you're earning $10, you
You
still paying
paying the same
$1.
dollar. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So, but let's look at the difference though.
Mm-hmm.
The person who's earning $10, $1 out of 10 is 1/10,
Mm-hmm.
but $1 out of 100 is 1/100.
Mm-hmm.
So the person who is poor actually pays more
Yes.
than the person who's rich.
Who's rich? Yep.
But the government is saying, guess what? I will collect from the rich and the poor in the VAT, and I'll pay CX is for everybody. So the poor will pay for the rich. The poor will be paying for the
For the
rich.
rich, yeah.
Is that what any country does? I know generally you get the rich to
To pay
help
for
the
the
poor,
poor.
but not the poor to help the rich. But you see again, when you have not thought through what you're doing,
Uh-huh.
and you have an objective of populism.
Mm-hmm.
You want to show I am there for everybody.
Everybody, yeah.
I am going to, and so in that way, though, you're going to kayashte tutmun.
Now
You buy
that
everybody.
brings me to the
You
difference.
hurt people, man.
That brings me to the
You
difference
hurt
between
people,
equity and equality.
and that's the point.
And a lot of people in St. Lucia
That's the
don't
point.
understand the difference.
That's the
Equity
point.
is making everybody equal. Equality is making sure. No, I have it wrong. Equality is that everybody's equal, but equity is that everybody is on the same level. So some people will need more
Absolutely.
to reach at that level than others.
Yes. And government policy ought to solve a problem. If you define the problem well, you come up with appropriate policies. The persons who are able to afford, and most people should be able to afford to pay their CXs in 16 years for their child for $1,600. That is what we should be encouraging our people to do. So if the government had come up with a program that says, for make sure as soon as your child is born, you open an account for your child, and you're going to put it there, and we're going to look at every year. At the end of the year, we're going to have a proportion of government revenue attached to this, and that money will go towards your child's university education. I can understand, because what will happen? You'll develop a culture of saving.
Right.
People will be wanting to make a contribution to the development of their own child, and the state will support that through contribution from government. That to me is how you build things, because it costs a lot more to go to university
Right.
than it costs to go to write CXs.
But then
So
we do
the
have that
essence is
one
this.
university per child,
The- and-
per household.
And to me, that is where the focus of the support should be.
Ah.
You see, the issue for me is this: those who need help, give the help.
Them help,
But
yeah.
those who do not need the help, don't pretend you are helping them, because you are not helping them. You are creating a culture of dependence,
Dependence, yeah.
a culture that takes away from people the need to be responsible for themselves and their family.
Yes.
The things that are within their remit, let them take care of it.
Right.
Those that are beyond them, the state comes in to help.
To help.
That to me is what governance is about. That to me is how you show you are really putting people first.
Now, let's segue, because I had a conversation with someone, and this person was talking about this policy, the government policy for the pensioners. And I asked the question. I said to the person, if the government, if you had $1,000 on an account, and based on your spending, that $1,000 would have taken you 6 months. It would have lasted 6 months. But then you go and you increase your spending, and that $1,000 now can only cover 3 months, but you still have 3 more months to go, and now you have to borrow to cover the 3-4 months. Was that a sound economic decision?
No, it was not.
And the person said to me, yes. And I said, why? Because you're benefiting. I said, but how? Because you were covered. You were covered for 6 months. You didn't have to worry about 6 months. Your concentration would be to save up money for the next 6 months. Now, you've increased your spending. Your revenue has not increased. And you're down. You're only covered for 3 months. And now you have to borrow. So you're at a loss.
Yeah,
And when I look at this increase, when I look at the increase in the government pensions, that's what I see. Because we know it was the same government, the self-same government that told us NIC is in dire straits. NIC is not going to last. Why increase the output from NIC when the input has not increased?
I am always in favor of policies that address the core problem.
Mm-hmm.
The cost of living in our country has gone up. Pensioners face that cost of living increase every day.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, how do we come up with a strategy that helps absorb the pensioner from that increased cost of living?
Mm-hmm.
So one approach is to give them an increase in the how you call it, the income they earn,
Uh-huh.
increase the pension income. But the cost of living is increasing at such a rate that when you really work out what is this increase in the pension that you're giving, it sometimes looks very minuscule
Mm-hmm.
because the real effect is so small because of the rate at which the cost of living. Would it not perhaps be better for those pensioners that the government looks at policies that remove them, say, from the VAT?
That's what I
That
was thinking.
that because the VAT is calculated on the landed cost of the vehicle of the goods
Uh-huh.
plus the other charges you have
Mm-hmm.
in between there, whether it's health and security tax or service charge, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were to uh, have a policy where that increased VAT or that VAT, which keeps increasing because the goods are increasing themselves, you would actually be helping cushion that increase.
Mm-hmm.
So you ensure that whatever would have been the government intake on that good or service that is being purchased by the pensioner,
Mm-hmm.
you remove that burden from the pensioner. That to me is one of the more realistic ways, because having given the pensioner the $300 whatever increase, but then the cost of everything plus your own government VAT goes up, it literally takes away from the person, the pensioner,
Yeah.
what it is they have been given. So I think what is required is a more serious approach, a genuinely serious approach to the problem, so that you in fact address the core problem that a pensioner is facing. I think what we see is an almost lazy approach to dealing with the problems we have.
Yeah.
Not sufficient thought, not sufficient imagination goes into those policies. And sometimes I tell myself, is it really because you want to solve the problem, or you want to say and report like you will report in the end of 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
We have given everybody, we are paying 5 CXs for everybody, and you're going to jump up and down over it. And then you're not going to realize what you've done is literally tell people you'll not be able to do it.
I've done it for you.
I've done it for you. You're no longer responsible. You are incapable. You are poorer than your parents. So
Mm-hmm.
I have to do that for you. These are the
And
kinds of
now
claims.
pay me.
And now pay me.
Right.
And now you owe me. So you have to
Yes.
pay me because I did that great thing for you. That
Yeah.
is, I think that is the sort of thing that is happening that we have to open our eyes and see. So I think at the end of 5 years, Eldris, when the government goes to speak to people on the market steps, I think our people need to listen carefully and look at the full picture of what is being presented to them.
Now, Titus,
We need to wrap up.
we need to wrap up at this
Yes.
point. So I'm going to give you a chance to give your final grades, and I want to thank you for coming. I know I've been harassing you to come and appear on the show. Thank you for not calling the police for me. And
No, no, no. Your intention is good.
but I think it's necessary for people to understand. Like I say, we hear a lot of those big words that the government likes to use, but I think that oftentimes we don't understand what those words mean. And people like you are essential in breaking it down and making it palatable for everyone, no matter what walk of life or what stage in their career they are, to fully understand exactly what we're dealing with. And I hope you don't mind. I will be calling on you. Like I said, I will use you as a lexicon for all of those big terms because I know that you're the guy to see about that, and I hope you don't mind.
I'll just end by saying that 5 years later, after this administration has been in office, um, I am concerned about what has actually been delivered.
Mm-hmm.
I'm concerned about the state of the economy because the reality of the economy does not match the noise. I am concerned about the governance of St. Lucia, and increasingly, I am concerned about our freedom in St. Lucia. I say so because people tell me they are afraid to speak. The private sector is not speaking. The NGO community is silent. I cannot imagine a St. Lucia. I could not imagine a St. Lucia where a government minister is under police investigation for an index crime.
Yeah.
And we have a prime minister saying to the people, I am okay with that person continuing to be in my cabinet, continuing to be the face of St. Lucia. And the private sector is not saying, but hold on there, my brother. You realize what you're doing is going to jeopardize my business because investors might have concern, other states might have concern, and our level of support will is going to dwindle, it's going to affect my business. You're not the image of St. Lucia in the international community. You mean no one in St. Lucia is brave enough to say that that is wrong? When I ask the question, people tell me people are afraid to speak. And I'm asking myself, what has happened in St. Lucia for you to be afraid?
Yeah.
It is our government. So you are afraid of your own government? So if that's the case, then we are running an autocracy, a
It looks,
dangerous place.
it almost sounds when you put
So
it that way that we are in an abusive relationship with our government.
I cannot even understand it. it so as I end up, I ask people to really think about where they are in our country. Think about what this government is doing to you in your own country, and begin to think of the action you now need to take so that we are all better off, not worse off, with a government. Um, so I am concerned about governance. I am concerned about accountability. I'm concerned that there is silence on those things. I have reached the conclusion that the media and the journalism in St. Lucia is not reflective of the reality. Either our people are just not trained, or they might also be equally afraid to speak or ask the hard questions and the truth. Or maybe they are also compromised. I am not sure. But
I think
this
a fear of
this
reprisals is huge. I mean,
this is really, if you are in fear of reprisals in a democratic country, then you do not have a democracy.
yeah.
And that is not where I want to even begin to think St. Lucia is at. Because once you don't have a democracy, you have a dictatorship. And that is a real, totally bad place.
Let me tell you.
So I end by saying St. Lucians need to look at the full picture. Let us not be sucked into this business of flambeau and labor. Let us be sucked into what is good for St. Lucia. And if we focus on that, we will call a spade wherever the spade is.
Thank you for that,
And that
Mr.
to me is really where we should be landing as people of St. Lucia, intelligent people at the end of the day.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Preville. Guys, thank you so much. As you know, I really have to run. Once again, Hard Talk will not be aired this afternoon because of certain commitments that I have to keep. But I'm hoping that I did bring you what I promised, an informative program that gives you a better understanding of the country we are living in and what is happening with our democracy. I want to thank you, Mr. Preville, once again. I want to thank all of my listeners, those on the Fire FM link and those on the social media platforms. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful afternoon. Bye bye.